Elevated Success. Today we're going to go over the Accord 125. This is a cover page for any commercial application. So when you send the quote into an underwriter for general liability, commercial property, any of the lines of business, this is going to be your cover page. So you'll want to include this. This is an important one you'll need to know. At the far right, you'll put today's date, the month, day, and year. And I have pre-filled this to just make this video a little bit quicker rather than having you watch me type. So on the far left under agency, you'll put your agency name, the address, contact name, your phone number, and your mailing address. If you have a fax number, you can put that in, but most people are not faxing these days. On the far right under carrier, you're not going to need to put any of this information under here. You'll want to go to the status of the transaction. If you're doing a quote, you'll click quote. If you're doing a renewal, you'll want to click renewal. Under line of business, you'll want to click which line of business you're doing. For this example, I'm doing commercial property and general liability, but this could be a cover page for business auto, business owner policy, any of these listed here. For this example, I'm using a restaurant. So under attachments, this is for any supplements you'll need to attach. You want to let the underwriter know that you've attached it with the email that you're sending in. So for this example, I did click the restaurant and tavern supplement, but whatever one you're using, you can click on that. Or if you're not using any, then you don't need to fill that part out. Under policy information, you'll do the proposed effective date. So if it's a new quote and a new business and you're not quite sure what that date is, get whatever date you feel is closest to when they're going to want to start that policy. If it's a requote of something that they're trying to get a new quote on, so it's new business and you're trying to get their renewal moved over to you, you would put the proposed effective date would be that renewal date. Under billing plan, you can either do direct or agency. For the MGAs, it's almost always agency. You don't need to fill out any of this information about the premium. You'll go to the applicant information next. You'll want the insured's name. And if they have LLC in their name, you'll want to include that or incorporated, whatever they have as their full legal name. You'll want to list that here. You'll also want their address and then whatever structure their business is. So for this one, I used LLC. You don't need to fill out the GL code, the SIC, or the NAICS, but you will need to know the FEIN number. If they don't have one, you can put pending. You don't need to collect any social security numbers for an application. You'll want the business phone number. If you have a website address, put it here. It does help for underwriting. If they don't have one, you don't need to add that. You can just leave it blank. If there are additional insureds, you'll want to list them here again with their name, address, their FEIN number, phone number, and then the structure. And there's 2 boxes for that if you need it. Under contact information, whoever you're dealing with, you'll want that contact person's name and contact information. So I have listed here the owner, his name, his business phone number, and then his primary email address. You can have a secondary. If you have one, you can list it here, but it's not necessary. If you have a second contact type, say maybe someone that's going to be doing the inspection, you could put their information here as well on the right side. Under premise information, for this example, this insured only has one location, but let's say they had, I'm doing a commercial property quote and they have more than one building at this location. You would do location 1, building 1 here, but then location 1, building 2 here if you had a second building. You could also, if they have more than one location, say they have one in one city and one in another, you could do location 1, building 1, location 2, building 2, and you've got several of these that you can use if they have multiple locations. So you'll want this address, the county, the description of the operations, their interest, whether they're the owner or the tenant, their full-time and part-time employees, the annual revenue, the square feet occupied, and the total building area, as well as if they lease it to others. So if they're sharing the space and they occupy one half and they lease the other half, you'll want to know that, list that as well. Obviously, this occupied area would be split in half if they were doing that. Next, you'll go to nature of business. For this example, I used restaurant, but whatever type of entity they are and their type of business that they do, you would click that here. The date they started the business, and then a description of operations. For this one, I did pizza restaurant with no delivery. Under additional interest, this is where you can put the mortgage. So if you're doing a commercial property, you'll want to list that here. The location and the building that the mortgage is on with the name and address and excuse me, the type of interest that they have. Next, you'll go to general information and you'll want to answer all these questions to the best of your knowledge. If you don't know something, please make sure you ask the insured. Is the applicant a subsidiary of another entity? This is almost always no, but if it is, you want the parent company name, the relationship, and the percentage owned. If there's a formal safety operation, program in operation, you'll want to list that as well. OSHA, you could do monthly meetings, whatever that may be, but you'd want this to say yes and then click whatever they're doing. If they have exposure to flammables, explosives, or chemicals, you'll want to list what those are here and put yes here. You don't need to answer any other insurance with this company because most, especially on a new quote, excuse me, most likely they're not going to have something with that same company. If they do, you can obviously answer that here. This is an important one. Number 5, any policy coverage declined, canceled, non-renewed during the prior 3 years. You'll want to list this. If you're in Missouri, you don't need to answer it, but any other state, you'll want to list why. If they've been canceled for non-payment, non-renewal, maybe the agent no longer represents the carrier, or if there's an underwriting issue. If they were canceled due to an underwriting issue, you're going to want to list what that condition was and how they corrected it. If you have any proof of how that was done, that it was completed, you'd want to send that into your underwriter as well, because that does support your insured and help you be able to get a quote from a carrier. Number 6, any past losses or claims related to sexual abuse. Usually that's no, but if there is, you'll want to explain what happened there. If they've been convicted of any crime or fraud, you'll want to list that here. Any uncorrected safety violations, you'll want the date, the explanation, the resolution, and the date resolved. And then, of course, foreclosure, bankruptcy, these are usually listed no. Judgment, usually listed no, but you'll want to answer those as well. If the business is in the name of a trust, you'll want the name of the trust here. And then if they have any ventures that are not coverage is not being requested, you'll want to list those here. That's usually no, but if there is a situation where there are, you would want to list that. And then now this is more common. If they operate or lease or own any drones, you'll want to describe the use. If their drones are hired to others, you'll want to describe that as well. If you have any additional information to give to the underwriter, you can list that here. And you can also include an Acord 101. Under prior carrier information, this does not need to be filled out. However, it can help the underwriter if they know what the premium was and kind of who they were insured with. So you can list it here, but you don't have to get a quote. Under loss history, if they have had none, you want to make sure you check this box and list the number of years. If they have, you'll want to collect the information, usually through a loss run report, the date of the occurrence, the line, so if it's general liability, commercial property, a description of what happened, the date of the claim, the amount paid, and the amount reserved. Typically, sometimes commercial policies will have a claim that's been partially paid, but the claim is still open, so that would have a reserve. If the claim is closed, there would not be a reserve. And then you'll want to list whether it went to subrogation or whether or not that claim is still open. Those are all very important. Under signature, there is a box here that you would need to check only under certain states. Make sure you know whether it's needed in your state. If it is, you're going to click this box and collect a signature, initial from your insured when you go to complete the application. And then at the bottom, once you've gotten your quote back and you're sending this into bind, you'll want your signature, the applicant's signature, your name, the producer's name, producer's license number, national producer number, and the date. And that's all there is to it. It is a pretty simple form to fill out. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can find us at www.elevatedsuccessonline. And you can also reach out to me by email at info@elevatedsuccessonline. Thank you so much.